So when we're looking at this whole potential for, a takeover of Greenland, one of the things to consider is that the primes may actually stop it. And not Optimus Prime, although we sure as hell could use. The primes are the big five U.S. defense contractors: Lockheed Martin, Boeing, Northrop Grumman, RTX, which used to be Raytheon, and then General Dynamics. So when we talk about taking over Greenland, we have to look at the fact that in 2024, 317 billion was the revenue for the top defense companies in the U.S., and approximately 68 billion of that was from Europe. So as we're looking at these, the potential for a takeover of Greenland or an attack on NATO, the defense contractors are the ones who are probably going to say no to that and are probably saying no now. And yeah, because it does come down to money and it comes down to influence. And this may be a part of why you saw Trump last week talk about, hey, I'm going after buybacks, and I'm going after defense contractors, wages for their CEOs, and all that because that's wrong and they need to procure things faster and deliver stuff faster. Um, yeah, I don't think he's ever really given a fuck about any of that, about what other people are getting paid, as long as he's getting his cut. And so that's something that we need to be aware. If you're trying to get a piece of it, which Trump does with everything, then you would send this threatening message off to the defense contractors, right? And then, oh, by the way, buy the dip when it goes down, when that news hits Wall Street and all the stocks go down. You buy that dip because people get worried about, less of an investment into the U.S. defense contractors or restrictions on U.S. defense contractors. Now, a couple hours later, after he received a couple phone calls from probably the primes, he immediately came out and said, like, I kind of changed my mind. I think we're going to have a $1.5 trillion defense budget, which is 50% more than we have right now. And then the stocks for the defense companies went up like this, right? So, yes, absolute probable corruption on that dip, but he was trying to get back in the good graces of the defense contractors by promising all of this extra spending. And will that work? No, I don't really think so. I don't think you're going to find any, or enough politicians who are willing to spend that when they're cutting services for Americans. And we keep complaining about all this money and trying to, minimize the deficit and all that bullshit. So I don't think you're going to find that political will to do that. But it comes back around to the fact that these guys, the defense contractors, these big five, the primes, control a whole lot of money. And attacking Greenland, attacking a NATO company is bad for business. A NATO country is bad for business. And that's not something they want. We're talking about decades of established relationships and established markets in the European Union. And they're watching some of that kind of fall away right now. Canada has come out and said, like, well, I don't know if we're going to buy these F-35s that we promised we would buy. That's a $20 billion deal right there. That's just one deal for aircraft. The F-35 is a mess. It's had all these delays and issues with the program itself, but they were supposed to buy another 72 aircraft. 16 are prepared to be delivered, I think, this year, but 72 aircraft, and that's going to be about $20 billion that they are potentially walking away from. Now, the Swedish company Saab came in and said, "Hey, we're going to give you, we'll go ahead and sell you a bunch of Gripens, which is another fighter aircraft and a pretty good one, and then also airborne early warning aircraft." And that seems to be something that Europe may trend towards and they've been trying to, especially with Trump coming back in office, is trying to go to European manufacturers for their defense and increase that procurement and stepping away from the primes, the defense contractors in the US because of Trump's rhetoric and his bullshit. Um, there was a huge surge in Europe of procurement from the defense companies, especially after Ukraine and Russia kicked off. That was massive. It tripled or quadrupled. And so that's a big market. And so when we talk about Greenland, yes, he can threaten to mobilize 1,500 Arctic troops, the Arctic Angels from Alaska, the 11th Airborne. He can do that, and I think a part of that is I'm really mad I'm not going to get what I want out of Greenland, and people are pushing back on me, but I'm going to make you scared on the way out because that's part of his MO. I don't think the defense contractors are going to let him, and this is why you see a lot of Republicans who are pushing back on it as well. It's not really NATO and all that. They gave up on that bullshit a long time ago. It's about money. It's about money. And so that's where the contractors come in. So it's just something to look at. And yeah, one, Trump is full of bluster and he'll say shit and then never actually do it. He likes to do that. That's part of his game because he likes to drive fear when he's feeling down and lonely and sad and like a toddler, which is a lot. So he likes to drive fear. But also, there's a giant amount of money when it comes to the defense contractors and Europe. Like 50%, I think, of sales Europe or US sales go to Europe. It's something like that. It's a massive amount. And so losing that market because of a toddler as the president and losing all of those customers, that would be a massive hit to the defense contractors. And I wish it didn't come down to money, but a lot of times it does. And it's like, where would these guys sell these aircraft and sell all of these munitions without Europe? They would have to go looking for different customers, and I don't think Russia and China would be viewed as favorably as favorable customers by the U.S. population. So it's just something to think about with all this. I know it's a mess. I am starting to think more and more that he's not going to go after Greenland. He's going to pout for a while and say a lot of stuff, and then he's going to get distracted and go do something else somewhere else. And this $1.5 trillion budget, send something off to your Republican, Democrat, representative and senator, and tell them not one dime, not one damn dime. The defense budget for the U.S. is uh, the same as the next 9 combined competitors or adversaries or other countries, if you will, and we're 3 times bigger than China. Not one dime in the defense budget. So, yeah, just some thoughts. Thanks.